but at the same time, we've all done very stupid things in our 20s, right? But how confident are you that he can mature? He can become a leader of this team, especially when Dak Prescott now isn't there and they need someone to step up?
Ideally, he would be the guy because he's the best player on the offense, or should be. They drafted him 4th overall, and he showed very poor judgment at different times. It's not like major criminal type stuff, but stuff where you're like, come on, man, you're in the public eye. You got to be smarter than that. As you said, he's in his early 20s. Anyone in their early 20s with cameras on them all the time, if you never get into any trouble, you're a special kind of person.
Interjecting here, he was accused of some serious stuff at Ohio State.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the pros. Pardon me. You're right. He was accused of serious stuff at Ohio State. Pardon me.
Thank you for mentioning that.
That's right.
Because I don't want to be a woman on TV blowing that off as well.
Yeah, no question.
So thank you.
Yeah, no question. I was thinking about on the Dallas Cowboys.
Got it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why I interjected.
So he's shown poor judgment, at least in the past. And he hasn't played well recently compared to his status as an elite player.
Right.
And the O-line isn't there even to help him. On the other hand, let me tell you a couple things I have noticed about him. He was a clutch player, I always felt, in college. I thought when the game meant more, he played better. He played like he gave the team what they needed. What his team needs now is that leadership from him. At the very least, by example on the field, stop coughing the ball up. Make some plays happen even when the line doesn't open up holes. Right. They're going to need him to do that because, Stephen A., they got no defense. They don't seem to have much coaching. They don't have leadership. And right now, they don't have a quarterback. It's going to fall on Zeke.
Well, it's definitely going to fall on Zeke, and I applaud him for, first of all, let's applaud him for a couple of things. Number one, immediately upon fumbling, twice on Monday rather than giving up back-to-back touchdowns, essentially giving up back-to-back touchdowns to the Arizona Cardinals because they scored touchdowns on both of the times he fumbled. He immediately owned it after the game. He took responsibility and culpability for the loss. Let's give him credit for that, number one. Number two, let's give him credit again yesterday for acknowledging that he has to step up and take more of a leadership role because Dak Prescott has usually been that guy. But now that he's gone, he has to play an elevated yet more different role. The fact that he knows that in a matter of days is a huge, huge thing because clearly that's what the situation entails. Here's what I think that we all need to, and I shouldn't say we, Ezekiel Elliott needs to understand this is what his situation is, and he's got to answer the call himself. Are you really that dude, or are you a product of a massive elite offensive line? Because for years we've been talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and we've bragged about the offensive line, how from, Travis Frederick and Zach Collins and La'el Collins, rather, and all of these guys. You look at these guys, and here he is, his first year, yards per game. Ezekiel Elliott averaged 108.7, 98.3, 95.6. Last year was 84.8. He's going down every year, but not that big of a deal because it was still respectable. You know what is that now, Max? 68.8.
Yep.
That's a really precipitous drop-off. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and you have the number one offense in yards, and you have the number one passing attack in the NFL, at least until Dak Prescott went down, the reality is that there's a huge question mark about Ezekiel Elliott now because, Max, I'll bring up a point you made. I was talking about Ezekiel Elliott as the best running back, him or Derrick Henry in football. You brought up Saquon Barkley, right? And we talked about his elusivity or whatever, but I said this dude, Ezekiel Elliott, hits the gap, does what he's supposed to do. He's running north to south. This is what he does, okay? Now we're seeing you look a little bit vulnerable now, and that elusivity that we relied upon when we talked about Saquon Barkley, you clearly don't have that, but you're certainly not even a Derrick Henry, who right now is the best running back in football, plain and simple. So all of these questions.
Saquon and McCaffrey are hurt.
I know that. But what I'm saying is right now when we look at Ezekiel Elliott, you got to answer that call. And he's going to have to answer it first by protecting the football, holding on to the football, not fumbling the damn football. And outside of that, he is averaging 4.1 yards a carry. He's never averaged less than 4.1 yards a carry in his career. He's not doing that now. But the bottom line is you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to step up and produce.
I think he will. He really showed humility, I think, with that apology there.
Yeah, I would say this. They always say, all the smart people in football never pay the running back. That's why people, like we talked about, they should be a running back exception. Or running backs should get special consideration in the CBA because of the position gets so screwed over by this. But all the smart people say don't pay them. And I've even made the argument it's okay to draft them very high. And the reason you can draft them with a high pick is because they're immediately productive. It takes very little time for them to get used to the league, right? Ezekiel Elliott was a star his rookie season. Saquon Barkley, star his rookie season. All these guys. And on their rookie deals, they give you all this production. And by the time the rookie deal's over, they're 24, 25. They've been grinded down. And you could say, well, you only got 2 or 3 more years ahead of you. Why should we pay you? They paid Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe it was a mistake.
Let me interject because I want to throw something by you and I want your opinion on this. This is just my thought process. You know what I would like to see happen for running backs? Something you alluded to, but I'm going to modify it just a bit. I would like to see there be a cap exception when it comes to running backs. You can exceed it. You know how in the NBA you got Larry Bird, right? Stuff like that. Yeah. In the NFL, I'd love to see a cap exception, something along those lines where you're allowed to exceed the cap in order to pay running backs. And you know where you cover yourself if you're an NFL owner? You could pay a running back whatever you want on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Because when I think about a guy like Derrick Henry, if I remember correctly, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think he signed for somewhere around $10+ million a year. All right, around $10 million or so. We know he's worth more than that based on what he did last year.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Derrick Henry get $20 million for this one season. And then you come back after this one season and say, okay, what are you worth now? Yeah. I'd love to see a running back treated that way.
Because that's an interesting idea.
You don't want to give them a long-term deal, but you want them to get their money year to year.
That's an interesting idea, and they could go to the highest bidder in the market would tell you who they thought the best would be this upcoming season. Le'Veon Bell contract, mistake, yes or no?
Yes.
Clearly, right? Todd Gurley contract.
But it's a mistake, but is it his fault?
No,
Gase?
I'm saying, but still, Todd Gurley contract, mistake, yes or no?
Yes.
It's a mistake.
He got injured.
Ezekiel Elliott, that's open to question. Like, here is where he can show that, okay, in my case, I'm the exception that proves the rule.
It's a pivotal moment, for sure.
It is a pivotal moment for him.
And for him, Molly, he ain't hurt at all. So there's really no excuse.
Yeah. And I think he's aware of that. Guys, I want to get into another story and get your opinion. This one's really important to me here. So New York City's mayor, Bill de Blasio, has a really tough decision to make. The Mets stadium lease with the city allows him to block the sale of any new owner who has been involved in a felony. Billionaire Steve Cohen was never personally charged with the crime, but in 2013, his securities firm pleaded guilty to securities fraud and wire fraud. If de Blasio rejects the sale to Cohen,